yourself getting frustrated, easy, irritable, a bit annoyed with things? Well, you've landed on the right episode of Me and My Health Up. I'm your host, Anthony Hartcher, clinical nutritionist and lifestyle medicine specialist. In this episode, I'm sharing insights about mastering the journey and letting go of the results, focusing on the process. And the reason why I'm sharing this today is because too often I see clients that are focused on the outcome and not embracing the journey. And it's in the journey where the transformation happens, because in the journey, we're present, we're focused on the now. Whereas when we focus on the results, we go into the future and we get frustrated that we're not there. And we try to force things in order to get there quicker, and we get impatient. And often when we force things, we're forcing them down a path that we know that gets some sort of outcome. However, it might not be the most efficient path or the best path to get to the results that you desire. So let's start with, first of all, we need to be really setting outcomes that we're seeking that are realistic, because often I see clients that have fantasies more so than realistic goals and objectives. We really want to make sure that our goals and objectives are achievable, they're realistic, and that we are not fantasizing as to a one-sided outcome. So it's going to be all this way, because what happens is we actually may get there. And if you do get there, at that point in time, you realize that it wasn't all of what you imagined, because you fantasized a one-sided outcome. And with every result, there is two sides to it. There's the great side to it, and then the not so great side to it. So it's important that we balance our perceptions around the result that we're seeking, so that we understand the upside of achieving the outcome, but also the downside that comes with it, that's entangled with it, as opposed to getting there and then thinking, oh, it's not all I imagined. It's not so great after all. And we start to realize the downside because we didn't have a balanced objective. So really make sure that you understand what is the downside of you obtaining your objective. Don't think that it's just all good, because you'll realize the downside when you actually get there and you feel let down and you feel that you get a sense of unhappiness. And so hence you then go on another journey, another one-sided outcome journey, and then finally get there and realize, oh, it's not what I thought it would be, because you're fantasizing. You had this unrealistic expectation that it'll only be one-sided and that it'll just be all up and there'll be no downside. So if we set realistic expectations, when we arrive there, we don't have this thing of, it's not what I imagined. You actually get there and it's everything you imagined, the up and the down together, entangled. So it's really important that you understand the outcome and what you're seeking. And I think best to relate it to weight loss journeys is that people can sometimes want to be someone else. And it's, I want to lose weight and I want to look like this person. Well, yes, it's objective, like it's a good goal to want to lose weight, but it's unrealistic that you'll ever look like the other person, because you're not them. And so that's where they feel let down, is that they actually lose the weight and they're still unhappy because they haven't transformed into the other person. Well, that was unrealistic. You can only be you, and you have a predetermined structure. There's genetics that have some implication here in terms of the shape that you are currently in and the shape that you ultimately can achieve whilst still having that structure. So sometimes people fantasize about having a different structure, like they don't want wide hips, they want narrow hips. Well, you've been gifted with wide hips. And I had this conversation with a client recently and asked them, what are the benefits of having wider hips? And they hadn't thought about it, because they only ever saw it from a societal view that narrow hips were desired. But in actual fact, it was their, fantasy that that's what society wants. But not everyone wants that. It's just what is thrown in front of our faces when we look at like ads, for example. So ads will show a particular shape, body shape, but that's changing too. So then the client realized eventually that, the advertising, these people, they sell on sex. And then she thought about it. She said, I really don't want to be sold on sex, and I don't want the attention that will bring me in terms of sexual attention. I don't want all these sort of people stalking me, or, so she realized that I actually don't want that. I want attention, but she wants it in the form that she values more. And so she had a much higher value on her vocation, which is her creative expression. So she's an artist, and where she wants attention is in that artistic expression, as opposed to in the physical form, in the form that she was admiring in someone else and then detested the way she looked. But ultimately, she didn't really want that result. She thought she did, until she realized there's a downside of having that result, and that was unwanted sexual attention. So it's really important that you set objective goals, and they're balanced, that they have an upside and a downside to them. And so it's important that you look at the downside of you achieving what you are desiring, to make sure that you have a full perspective of what you're chasing and you understand the wholeness of what you're pursuing. Now, that's on the result side of things, okay? So we want to set balanced objectives and real objectives, and objectives that are important to us. So we don't want to set objectives that we think we'd like to have just because someone else has achieved them. We want to make sure that the objectives are meaningful to us. So we want to look at the why. Why do we want to achieve that? And keep asking ourselves why until we feel that emotional connection to it. And you'll feel this emotional, that this is so important to me, and you feel this emotional release. And so they're objectives, goals that are worth pursuing because they're really aligned to who you are and they're deeply meaningful. We don't want to pursue things that are meaningless to us, because then we'll feel empty when we achieve it. So that's on the goal side of things. Now, in terms of the process is something that we can control in that moment, like we can have a connection to, in terms of we can do something about in that moment to take us towards the goal. But if we continually just focus on the goal and not on the process, then we get frustrated. And we think, oh, it's so far away, and I'm getting annoyed that I'm not there. And then we end up thinking it's not achievable, because we're focusing on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And that gap is quite large, generally speaking. But what we want to do is focus on the process that will take us towards it, and will narrow that gap over time. And the process is something we have control over in the now. We can actually do something for, and we can't fly to the result. We can't shortcut to the result. We wish we could teleport, but again, that would take away from the journey that we go on and who we become in order to get to that result. Because often people will have a greater value on who they've become once they've achieved, through doing what they did in order to get there, who they become, as opposed to the outcome itself. They think the outcome, oh yeah, I'm here, but it was really that journey that I went on that was really magic, the highs and the lows in getting there. So we really want to focus on the process, because that keeps us in the present. We can do something about it. It's taking us towards there. And so really we want our KPIs, or key performance indicators, on whether we did the process and how well we did the process. Generally, we want to know we're heading in the right direction. And so that's why we want to measure what we're doing to make sure that we're heading in that direction. I'll give you an example related to myself, that I ultimately want to reach and connect and help as many people as possible. And so I have a YouTube channel, and I can see the number of people that are subscribed to my YouTube channel. And then if I were to compare myself to some other people that have got massive subscriber base, I'm straight away thinking how great it would be, but I'm not necessarily thinking of the counter as to what are the downsides of getting to that number. And I'm not also taking into consideration the work that they put in order to get there. I'm just imagining how great it would be. And it sort of takes me away from focusing on what I can control. So I can't control that outcome. I can't click my fingers and it will happen. But what I can do is look at how to create better content by reviewing past content and modifying future content to better engage and to be better connecting, or better fulfilling other people's needs in terms of what people are looking for. And so I've got onto talking on topics that are current, and more titles I use are SEO friendly, so to speak. It's what people are actually typing in and searching for, so that I've got more chance of being found. And so that helps. But then they can find me, but I need to create engaging content that they're going to want to watch, because they're going to get value out of it. So I'm looking at how can I improve the value I'm delivering with each episode I do, because ultimately that's what I can control. But I can't control whether I get 1 million subscribers or I don't. I've got no control over that. I can only wish and fantasize over it, but that doesn't help me get there. It doesn't do anything about getting me there. It just makes me frustrated. So I focus on what I can control, which is about changing the way I deliver, maybe the timing or the length, the duration. But I'm also looking at who I'm becoming in doing this, because ultimately I want to become a more engaging speaker. I want to become a speaker that people want and ultimately value, and they want to come and hear and listen to what I've got to say. And in order to do that, I do need to practice. And so each episode is a practice of me becoming a better speaker. And you could be the judge of this. You could go back to my first recordings and then compare those original recordings with the recordings today and see whether I've grown. I've certainly looked at those recordings and have tweaked things over time. Well, I know I've become better in terms of me delivering my message and talking on content that's more what people are looking for, and making sure I'm delivering value each time I'm doing content. And at the other time, it also, the other benefit I get on this journey is that I'm constantly growing my knowledge. And so my knowledge compared to the first episode has significantly developed. And so I'm way more knowledgeable as a result of going on this journey. But I'm still not where I want to be. But I'm really embracing the process of getting there, as opposed to hung up that I'm not there yet, because I'd feel frustrated and irritable if I just kept focusing on the outcome and think I'm not there. And then I could give up hope and think, oh, the gap's too great. What's the point? I'm never going to get there. But I'm not worried, and I don't have such a strong attachment on the outcome when I've balanced it. When I see the downside and also the upside and see it in full perspective, I don't have an attachment. I can see both sides to it, because I've set a realistic goal in terms of what I want to. So my goal isn't around the number of viewers. It's about really adding value to you. So it's creating content that's valuable to you and less about the viewers, because there's other ways in which I can get viewers. I could pay them to subscribe to my channel. I could bribe them and all those sort of things. Ultimately, I want to enhance and enlighten the well-being of others. And I can do that with a smaller viewership. So I'm not necessarily fixated on the 1 million viewers, although that was sort of once a fantasy. I've now really embraced the process of who I'm becoming and what value I'm adding to my clients and my followers in the journey. And so I really like the journey, and whether I ever get to the outcome, it doesn't matter anymore, because I'm not attached to it. And the problem when we get attached to an outcome, we force things, we lose our flow, we force behaviors. And you can relate to this in a sporting context. When you see teams that are chasing scoreboards, they make more mistakes. But when you see teams that are focused on the process, they're in a state of flow and they don't make mistakes, because they're totally present. And mistakes don't happen when we're present, because we're fully aware and we can apply our full ability in the moment. When we are forcing things, we try to chase an outcome that ultimately is somewhat out of our control. So we can only ever really go back to the process, because I may never get to 1 million viewers. And do I want it? Well, it'd be nice from an ego point of view, but ultimately it doesn't matter to me, because I want to help enhance and enlighten the well-being of others, and I can do that one person at a time, or I could do that with one person. And so I can really, but then I'm thinking, well, if I create content that's more desirable, then I can get more followers. But as to what that looks like in the future, I don't know. What I'm really focused on is enjoying the journey, the process of who I'm becoming in getting there. So I'm becoming a more knowledgeable person in the field I love. I'm no longer nervous, well, not as nervous, doing these recordings, and I get into a more flow state. I can generally find the words. When I was nervous, I struggled to find the words, because I was more focused on the outcome, whether people would like it, but I'm not really attached to that. It's up to the people. I can't control what people think of my content, but I can control me improving my content and hoping to create more value. But I can't control whether people like it, because with any episode, there will be some people that like it and some people that don't. I can't control that. All as I can control is improving myself and what I can do with each episode. And you can apply this to any goal that you're chasing. So for example, if you want to, it's important for you to achieve a run or a marathon, because it's been an ambition. ever since you started running. The only thing you can really control is your training, your volume of training, and making sure you recover well. And that's the process. And it's who you become in ultimately achieving that. Because what you'll find is you'll achieve the marathon, you'll think, oh, it's done now. Is that it? Is the whole world's not at my hands and feet, praising me. It's sort of, yeah, I've achieved it, but it's not really what I fantasize because I had this one-sided view of it. What you'll reflect on is the journey that you went on and the ups and downs and how you learnt as much or probably more from the downs versus the ups during the journey. And the downs, for example, is just feedback to tell us there's a better way of doing it, or it's feedback to say that we can tweak things in order to get to where we want to in a more efficient way. And we learn more from those downs in the journey, and that really grows us, those downs, because that's where we get the feedback that we're thinking, I could do it, I could do this better. And that's what I do with each episode I record. I reflect on what could have I done better. Often I reflect and think, I forgot to say that. But then I think that's something I can then do another episode on. So it's not really, in the moment of recording, I said everything that I was meant to say. In future recordings, always plan better too. I could plan more structure to the episode. But what I find with the structure is I can also get too fixed on that process and lose my flow in trying to become rigid to a process. And so with my episodes, I've looked at both structure and flow and no structure, and ultimately trying to find what's best for me. And the other thing I've been listening to is how much I say ultimately. I'm very aware of that. It might be annoying you. I'm aware of it too. So it's something that I'm wanting to correct and improve, because what I find when I reflect on episodes, I do say, and there's a word that seems to be hot in my mind, and I keep saying that word. And I think it can become annoying if you're a listener, right? So you'd probably relate to this in certain words that are in your vocab that are new and exciting, and you keep saying. So I'm going to change that, and I'm going to improve my vocab so I can find better words or synonyms. I think that's the one I'm looking for. So the other story I wanted to share was my daughter's story in karate. And when she started out, she started doing like fighting tournaments. And at these tournaments, like Sophia's an achiever. She's a real go-getter, and she, wants results. She's a results-oriented person, very much like me. I've obviously changed my perception around results and allowed me to get into a more flow and journey-like state, and it's who I'm becoming and not the end result. And it's who I've become in the process of achieving that result. But Sophia, I wanted to coach her through this. And so she initially started attending these tournaments and would constantly get knocked out in the first round and be frustrated. And she goes, I just want to win. And I said, it's that fixation on winning that's taking you away from being present and finding opportunities to actually win the fight. And so when she realized that I'm going to just get in the moment and focus, really looking for those opportunities and best dealing with what's in front of me, as opposed to projecting my mind to the end result of winning that gold medal or winning the fight. And what it does, it takes me away from the present. I miss opportunities and actually give the opposition opportunities because I'm not present. I'm not guarding. I'm not blocking. Because I'm fixated on winning. And my whole fight, I'm focused on the outcome as opposed to the process that I need to implement. And the process is what we can control. We ultimately because the outcome's up to the referees, right? It's really up to them and how they perceive the fight and what they see. And so what Sophia can control in the fight is the way, to perform at her best. And the way she can perform at her best is to stay present and focus on what's coming towards her and applying what she knows. And a better measure of her success is her progress of becoming a better fighter and staying more present for a longer period of time during the fight duration. And then to reflect on fights as to where she can improve. And that is the better process to focus on. And she did that. And she'd go back to training each time and look at a new area of her fighting And her sensei was helping her with this, identifying these areas that she could work on and improve. And she worked on angles and being able to better control the fight through her angles and using her angles and going on this tango with this opponent. And eventually she became the national champion because she got very process oriented. And through that process oriented, became very present and became very composed. Because when we get focused on the outcome, we get nervous and anxious and stressed that we don't think we're going to get there. And it's because we've taken our attention there and the opponent's getting on top of us and we feel it. We know we're not, and we feel that we're going to lose that attachment to the end result. And then our mind just runs off that I'm going to lose the fight and I'm lost. And you start to feel that way. And the opponent, in the meantime, is present and really taking advantage of where your mind is at. And so when Sophia was able to focus on the process, she became a very composed fighter. She was so present and she was able to deal with whatever was coming her way and deal with it in the way she had learnt in the dojo as to how to deal with different, and obviously new situations come up all the time, and they're new learning experiences, and they're experiences that you can reflect on, review on, and improve on so that you're ready for them next time, and that helps you prepare for next time. And so we can always grow in every objective that we're pursuing, and ultimately we might outgrow that original objective that we set because we've focused on the process so much and on self-improvement that inadvertently we outgrow that thing that we thought a big target. And the thing is, when you focus on the process, it doesn't feel like a long journey. It's an enjoyable one because you're so present. And in actual fact, you don't care if you get there ever because you actually enjoy the process. And it's like me on my journey. I may never get to 1 million subscribers, but that doesn't matter because I love who I'm becoming in this process. I'm building my knowledge base, my wisdom. I'm getting better at the delivery each time. And I'm getting feedback that I'm changing lives. And that's more fulfilling than me having that number that says 1 million subscribers, is when I hear a story that my message has had such an impact on their life, a profound impact. That's way more important to me than that 1 million subscribers, because that's just a number. But are you actually impactful, or are you just entertaining? I mean, I guess entertaining is having some impact. It's helping the person, escape their worries, their stresses, which I recorded on the previous episode. So it might be giving them some relief, temporary relief. However, I'm hoping I'm providing some more permanent and healing solutions, more dealing with root cause issues, and helping you transcend that problem so that it no longer becomes a problem, because entertainment just sort of distracts us and provides a band-aid to the problems that we're dealing with. I'm an educator. I'm empowering and enlightening the well-being of others, and I'm going to stay on that mission. And this is what this recording's all about. I want you to stay on mission and not get fixated on the outcome, not get attached to the outcome. Allow whatever transforms, but really stick to the process and enjoy the process. If you're not enjoying the process, then look to reevaluate that. Look to see if it's meaningful, because the more meaning you have with any outcome or any process, the more you just like doing it, the more you enjoy doing it. I don't even know the time that escapes. Like, for example, I've just had my first glance at the clock and it's 27 minutes I've been speaking, but I feel like I'm just starting, I'm just warming up. And so it's really interesting that when you're in the flow, you're not worried about time. You don't get impatient. You just allow it to happen. So this episode has really been in free flow. I've had some idea of the structure, but I haven't been fixated on getting each part of the structure right. I've allowed my element of artisticness to come into it. And I'm hoping you pick up on that flow, that sense that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. And I really want you, when you're setting goals, to set realistic goals, balanced goals, so that you're aware of the upside and downside of achieving that outcome. So you get less attached to the outcome, which now enables you to focus on the process, which enables you to stay more present, which ultimately enables you to perform better. I said ultimately again, at least I picked it up. So stay focused on the process. Stay more present. When we're present, we find more creative pathways. We find the words we're looking for. we're able to stay in a state of flow and fluidity because we're not trying to force things. When we force things, we go with what we know and we don't step into that space of unknown because it's more uncertainty and we want to force a particular outcome. I'm not trying to force any particular outcome. I want to inspire you through the information I share. I want to educate you through the information I share. And I want to provide information that's empowering to you so that it transcends your problems as opposed to distracting you from your problems. And so hence, I'm not fixated on 1 million subscribers. I'm really more fixated on delivering value and making sure that I'm actually enhancing and enlightening the well-being of others, because that's when I stay on purpose and that's more meaningful to me, transforming the lives of others for the better. So I hope you liked this episode of Me and My Health Up. Please put your feedback in the comments. Please write away and give me your feedback, because that's how I can grow. That's how I can make more engaging content, by you giving me feedback. Tell others if you found this informative and useful. Please share it with others, because that's how I can extend my reach and help more people, because ultimately the more people I help, the more fulfilled. And by doing this, it enables me a platform to reach more people. So please share it with others. You can easily share it. And if you found it valuable, I'm sure some other loved one or someone important to you will find it valuable as well. And please give me your feedback. I really appreciate your feedback, and enables me to grow and create more engaging content. And that is it for this episode of Health Up. Stay tuned for more insightful episodes of Me and My Health Up.
Podcast disclaimer. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it do not constitute medical, healthcare, or professional advice and are provided for general information purposes only. All care is taken in the preparation of the information in this podcast. Connected Wellness Proprietary Limited, operating under the brand Me and My Health Up, does not make any representations or give any warranties about its accuracy, reliability, completeness, or suitability for any particular purpose. This podcast and any information, advice, opinions, or statements within it are not to be used as a substitute for professional, medical, psychological, psychiatric, or any other mental health care or healthcare in general. Me and My Health Up recommends you seek the advice of a doctor or qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Inform your doctor of any changes that you may to your lifestyle and discuss these with your doctor. Do not disregard medical advice or delay visiting a medical professional because of something you hear in this podcast. This podcast has been carefully prepared on the basis of current information. Changes in circumstances after publication may affect the accuracy of this information. To the maximum extent permitted by the law, Me and My Health Up disclaims any such representations or warranties to the completeness, accuracy, merchantability, or fitness for purpose of this podcast, and will not be liable for any expenses, losses, damages incurred, indirect or consequential damages, or costs that may be incurred as a result of the information being inaccurate or incomplete in any way and for any reason. No part of this podcast can be reproduced, redistributed, published, copied, or duplicated in a form without prior permission of Me and My Health Up.